Well, welcome back. February 12th, 2020. I'm Seth Leibsohn. Here's a question that if we had a serious opposition party would resonate, and resonate seriously. How are we able to go on? A little less than a year ago, the Democrats told us we were in a constitutional crisis over the Mueller report. Then, of course, we had to impeach and convict the president because, to quote the opposition, he was an ongoing threat and a clear and present danger to our country. Well, how does it feel to of a sudden live in something they've made sound like, I don't know, the last days of Weimar Germany or Darfur, Sudan? What of the World War III we were being cast into by the killing of Qasem Soleimani? And yet, they are taken seriously. They're taken seriously by their own partisans. They're taken seriously by the media. And yet we have to ask the Groucho Marx question, don't we? Who are you going to believe, them or your own two eyes? And what is their proposal for us all to survive such dark moments? Are they just going to give up now and, like Emily Latella, say, never mind? I mean, do they have no moral responsibility for their words and warnings? What do they tell the children? Will any reporter ask Nancy Pelosi or Jerry Nadler what they suggest we do, being on the cusp of another world war while in the midst of a constitutional crisis? Or do we just kind of all go on knowing they were never serious in the first place? Do we just play the game? Well, to some of us, politics is not a game. How we govern ourselves, how we mold the morals and markets and marketplaces of our society. Should we not ask for more from the opposition? Should we keep going on taking them seriously when they have to know, they have to, that they can't themselves be serious about the things they say? Pete Buttigieg said Friday night he opposed the killing of Qasem Soleimani because he doesn't know what the plan is going forward. How about this, Mr. Mayor? The plan is to squeeze and outlaw a terrorist regime, as we've been doing, and when they strike American targets, to take them out, just as they've been warned. Or was he being unserious too? I mean, he wanted us to take him seriously in knowing that if he were president, Soleimani, a master killer and terrorist, would still be alive. We're supposed to take that seriously. We're supposed to think that's a good idea. Well, we should take it seriously if they say it, and if they unify to say it, as they have, do they have no responsibility beyond just thinking it's okay to frighten the American populace? War, constitutional crisis, clear and present danger to our national security, existential threat to our constitutional way of life. Or was it all just about a power grab? A power grab. And if so, and is there any other conclusion one can draw? What does that make them but the very things they warn about? Dangerous demagoguery. Merriam-Webster tells us in their first definition that a demagogue is someone who, quote, leads by making use of popular prejudices and false claims and promises in order to gain power, close quote. Think of what Abraham Lincoln warned about that this republic could breed. He warned about propensities here to, quote, breed an Alexander, a Caesar, or a Napoleon. And he equally warned us citizens to be ready for such things. For he said such a time, quote, will require the people to be united with each other, attached to the government and laws, and generally intelligent to successfully frustrate those designs, close quote. Are we up for this? We'd better be. You see, the raw quest for power, playing on our worst fears, with so much ado about nothing, is what leads to an Alexander, a Caesar, a Napoleon. Or worse, use your imagination. Much ado about nothing? Soleimani's killing? It's not ado about nothing. It's ado about something that should have been celebrated, not condemned. If you disdain evil, if you respect humanity, or even just women's rights, or even just our military, the killing of a master killer of Americans and others who represents a repressive regime should get nothing but deserved credit. Not warnings, not denunciations. The whole Ukraine mess, I guarantee you, that clear and present danger will hardly be able to be described to anyone, fellow American or not, 2 years from now, perhaps even a year from now. Think about it. Think about how history books will be written a generation forward. How do you think they'll describe the way Donald Trump was impeached, or why? I don't know the answer, but I can guess. I can also guess that if anyone were to ask anyone else about it in almost 2 years, they'd have to pause and try and remember the whole set of facts. That's how much of a clear and present danger it was. Or the constitutional crisis involving the Mueller report. Anyone right now, 6 months after it, recall what that was about, the constitutional crisis, not the main investigation? I bet not. So what is it with the Democrats today? I think each and every leader of that party, from Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg to Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, ought to go back and read the book dedicated and titled To Their Craft, Aristotle's book, The Politics. It opens this way, quote, "Every state is a community of some kind, and every community is established with a view to some good, for mankind always acts in order to obtain that which it thinks good. But if all communities aim at some good, the state or political community, which is the highest of all, and which embraces all the rest, aims at good in greater degree than any other and at the highest good." What good, one might ask Schumer or Pelosi, are they aimed at obtaining? What do you think they'd answer? I don't think they'd really have an answer. Bernie has an answer. And that's why he's surging in his party right now. It's not an answer I like. It's not an answer that comports with the ideology of the founders or really any economic theory that has ever succeeded and didn't devour its own children. But at least it's an idea, or a set of ideas. It's an ethos. Perhaps slaking that natural thirst for a reason, for being a raison d'etre, is why the youth of the left flock to him. He actually has a set of ideas and proposals beyond Republicans equal bad. And if you listen carefully to Bernie, he really doesn't say Republicans bad. He says the whole system is bad, and has said a lot of negative things about the Democratic Party too, which is why he has not decided to call himself a Democrat, even while running for the presidency under their label. He still calls himself a socialist. But of course, the main thing missing in all this is the thing we should be celebrating today. Today is Abraham Lincoln's birthday. And once upon a time, we had a sense of why Lincoln was such a great president, such a great public servant. Today, ask your children between the ages of something like 12 to 30 or 12 to 40, and ask them if they can tell you anything about Abraham Lincoln, other than that he was shot. More young people know we had slavery and think our country was built on slavery than that a great American rose up and said, if slavery isn't wrong, nothing is wrong, and dedicated his life to its extinction in America. I will venture to tell you that more 15-year-olds today know more about the year 1619 than they do anything Lincoln said or stood for. You know more than anything what I think he stood for? Knowing the difference between right and wrong. We used to study the Lincoln debates. That's what they were all about, all of them, whether people had a right to vote for a wrong or not. And how did people know what was right and what was wrong? Was it merely what a majority or a locality said, or were such notions based on something called truth, something called the laws of nature, something called inalienable rights? But all of this is out of vogue with every leftist, too many conservatives probably, and almost all of academia. It's all out of vogue. This is the true crisis, the true constitutional crisis, because if relativism be our governing ethic, with knaves twisting the public to the notions of their truth, not the truth, but their truth, we're doomed. If I may quote Harry Jaffa on this Lincoln's birthday, such moral relativism dominates political thought in our time far more profoundly than when Douglas and Lincoln had their debates. And this moral relativism, now even more than then, takes the form of a rejection of the principles of the Declaration of Independence. This is not because it is the Declaration alone that embodies moral realism and moral rationalism. Indeed, the principles of the Declaration are expressed in many other places, in the Revolution and in the founding generally. The laws of nature and of nature's God in the Declaration represent, however, a distillation of the wisdom of a tradition of more than 2,000 years. They and the American founding generally represent the culmination of the attempt by Socrates, described by Cicero, to bring philosophy down from the heavens. They also represent the agreement of reason and revelation of Athens and Jerusalem on the moral grounds for human government. For Lincoln, as for Jefferson, and one may add most Americans up until about 2 generations ago, The great principles of right and wrong must govern the people, for the people to be able to govern themselves. No majority, however great, can authorize what is intrinsically immoral. According to George Washington, no nation can prosper that, quote, disregards the eternal rules of order and right which heaven itself hath ordained, close quote. So happy birthday, Mr. Lincoln. For it is you, more than any other, who taught us, as Dr. Jaffa put it, that it was hardly wonderful that a nation of slaveholders, on becoming independent, did not abolish slavery. What was wonderful, nay miraculous, was that a nation of slaveholders, on becoming independent, declared that all men are created equal, and thereby made it a moral and political necessity that slavery be abolished. But of course no young person knows this today. And that, as I say, is the real constitutional crisis. I'm Seth Leibsohn, 602-508-0960. We'll be right back. I'd like to take a moment to tell you about my friends at Guns Etc. They are true American patriots. They strongly support our president, and they have over 10,200 square feet of firearms and firearm accessories. Please take my advice and stop by their store, which is a symbol of American freedom, or visit them at gunsetcetera.com and have access to over $350 million in firearms merchandise.